Hey, hey, welcome back to another episode of Epic Meta Podcasts. George, how are you today?
Very good. Although my
Nice.
my wife was just she tested positive for COVID.
Oh no. I
Yeah,
hope she's doing all right. Hope
yeah, she's asymptomatic, which is good.
Mm.
Although as soon as she notified me, I started to feel chilled. So
Yeah,
that's probably
might have
psychological,
to
though.
might have to just be careful. But it's very hard in close quarters, so yeah, just gotta make sure everybody's staying safe and healthy and take as much precaution as you can,
Yeah,
whatever you
I
can
intend
do.
to. I'm gonna get a test later today, so we'll see.
Good. Good, good. All right. Yeah. Well, today on the episode, we're gonna review and discuss in depth about, I guess, two of our favorite movies, or two movies that stood out to us the most. Certainly, you have your favorite there. Why don't you give us the rundown on Close Encounters, and I'll give the rundown on Arrival.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to clarify, Close Encounters is definitely one of my favorites. I had never seen Arrival until recently, so I just watched it, and I'm still kind of processing it. So I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it though. Um, but anyway, what do you want me to do? Discuss the narrative of Close Encounters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just plot,
Okay.
anything like that.
It's kind of a simple film. It was made in the 70s, and movies were not as formulaic as they are now, and you can see that. You can definitely see that or appreciate that when you compare Close Encounters to Arrival. Arrival seems to like hit a lot of plot points that you see in movies nowadays, and does it very um, specifically, whereas in Close Encounters it's a little more nebulous, more free flowing, I think. But anyway,
Mm.
so Close Encounters, it's a story of aliens coming to Earth, and there's lots of depictions of how governments react. There's there's a few scenes in the beginning where you see like scientists and government people visiting various locations on Earth where there's evidence of aliens having been there. One scene in particular, in the middle of the Mexican desert, there's four World War II planes that disappeared during World War II, and they look like they haven't aged at all. Um,
Mm.
okay, but then you focus in on Richard Dreyfuss and Terry Garr, their husband and wife. And I saw it as a dysfunctional family, but you seem to think it was a normal, loving family, which is very interesting, Tang,
Yeah. I mean,
right? I
we
mean,
can talk about that.
so they were fighting from the beginning. There's kids destroying stuff in the background. The house is a mess. It's very chaotic. Um, it so that's those are all the
Yep.
clues I got that it was dysfunctional. But okay.
Mm.
At the same time, there's another family. It's a single mother with a small child named Barry. They live in the Indiana countryside in a
Mm.
farmhouse. And so, anyway, Richard Dreyfuss is out one night and he comes in contact with aliens, and his face get the spaceship and his face gets sunburned on one side, and the other family, the little kid Barry, runs off, and the mother and Richard Dreyfuss meet. Um, and then later on, Barry is abducted by the aliens. And then Richard Dreyfuss's family starts to fall apart. His wife drives away with the kids, and he becomes obsessed with the image of Devil's Tower in Wyoming, which happens to be where the aliens are going to rendezvous with the scientist people at the end of the movie. So Richard
Mm.
Dreyfuss starts to get this subconscious draw to start creating images of this tower in his house. He starts throwing dirt and plants through his window so he can construct a large image of it in his living room. This is after his wife moved out. And Barry's mother, after Barry was abducted, she starts painting pictures and drawing pictures of Devil's Tower. And then they both see Devil's Tower on the news, and so they drive out to Wyoming and they meet up there, and the government's there and they're trying to keep people away, and they sort of evade the government and eventually make it to the meeting spot. And then there's this grand finale where the aliens show up and they're friendly and they release all the people that they've abducted over the years. And they come out and exchange greetings with the humans, and it's a very emotional, kind of heartwarming scene. It's not antagonistic in any way. And then Richard Dreyfuss is eventually selected by the aliens to go on the ship with them, and the ship takes off, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little story, action adventure. I would say it's very. I don't know. It's just very feel good, you know, movie. I forgot. It's Spielberg movie.
There
So
are
it's
moments of tension, like when Barry was
yeah,
abducted, and the moments, the depictions of the dysfunctional family. I found tense, but all that
you did.
yes, but all that tension is resolved in the end.
Yeah, I found it endearing though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can talk. So let me give a rival quick rundown, and much shorter than your rundown. Right now, I'm definitely gonna miss stuff, and for those who are already listeners of the show, they know that you're not gonna get everything with me. Basically, because we want to talk about this is interesting because I want to talk about that family too. With Arrival, we start out on understanding the short story is that aliens came to planet Earth asking for help. That's really in one sentence, that's what the story is about. But it involves a linguistic professor. Amy Adams played his character, and throughout the whole thing, we see her struggle. And so it comes to we come to understand as the the storytellers as third party is that as she is helping the government, United States government, what happened is the alien lands.
She's helping them to communicate with the aliens.
Correct. She's helping them communicate with the aliens, and there's about 6 or 7. There's about a few different locations where the aliens land their ship, and what it looks like is amazing because take an egg and cut it in half, and that's what the ship looks like. And how it does is looking to tie all human communication together and communicate to the species as a whole. Somehow they understood that we are composed of different nationalities and different languages, and so they sent all these ships down. I imagine the same story that's happened to Amy Adams happening, in different parts of the world, but our perspective is just to this character, and so she helped the U.S. government communicate with the aliens, and of course they share. All the governments are sharing their knowledge with each other, and what is so cool about the aliens, their language affects you in how you understand time, and that's the whole thing with Arrival, is the ability to no longer being linear time beings, but I would say non-linear, being able to understand both beginning and past and present and all that stuff as a being. And that's what we see throughout the movie, things affecting Amy Adams a certain way. And yeah, it's a lovely story because it's kind of about her and her relationship with her daughter, and human love and all that stuff. It's just really cool because the way I like it, because the way it's depicting aliens is truly alien to me. We have this fascination, and compared to Close Encounters, it just just how we evolve as human beings and movie making, right? And this is the two that I want to compare as well. It's just the alien structure being bipedal and having two eyes and all that stuff is completely to me it's just like not realistic. I expect something so drastically different that's just gonna blow our minds apart. But that said, yeah, let's get into the the family right away. Or do you want to cover the commonalities between the two movies first?
Well, let's start with the family, and I'm sure that'll take us where we want to go.
Yeah. So the family in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Richard Dreyfuss have and his wife have three kids, and they show all these scenes, like you said to me, which of course I saw the same movie, but somehow I thought of it as endearing, right? Like a normal, somewhat crazy American family, and that's what you or anybody would expect. I don't. I do see the problems. I do see signs that like, geez, man, like this is something you got to work on. But at the same time, to me, it felt very ordinary that a normal family would have this kind of issues. Granted, to me, and that's a problem, right? Like when I look at something, I don't know if I should apply my standards or not, because to me, I'm a little bit OCD.
Mm-hmm.
I am messy, but at some point, there's a certain trigger of messiness where I cannot pass, and I would go into a furious mania of cleaning and clean everything and organize everything. But it's a up and down cycle, like a roller coaster. Now, when I saw Richard Dreyfuss' family, I was bothered by the messiness of everything, right? So I don't know if that was me or
no, that's
is this normal?
I think
to be
that's
that
normal.
messy?
I mean, I was bothered by the messiness too, and it's not just
Okay.
messy in that there's clutter all over the place. I mean, the first scene in their house, the wife is sitting in a chair and she's visibly frustrated, and she's kind of like, "We never do anything, can you take us out to, to a movie
Movies.
or miniature golf?" And Richard Dreyfuss is sitting at a table on the other side of the room, and there's just stuff all over the place. In the background, there's a playpen, and one of the kids is standing in the playpen, and he has a doll, and he's smashing the doll on the railing of the playpen, like through the
Yeah.
entire scene. Now, and the doll is breaking apart, and I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's like no one is satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's venting their frustration in one way or another. The kids do it in a more childlike way. The parents do it in sort of a passive aggressive way, and the house is a mess. I mean, the whole scene was completely unsettling to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I would imagine if you had kids, it's a little bit terrifying, and at the same time, I like we talked about in the past. I didn't grow up here, and I remember seeing it the first time, or I keep seeing it, and I keep thinking about it's like, why don't people spank their kids? I learned when I was growing up here that people don't do that. Now certainly
They don't
some
do it
people
now.
still do.
When I was a kid,
Right.
Parents spanked their children.
Yeah, well, I don't know why whatever the cultural norm is now, it doesn't make any sense, because certainly if you stand there and whack your toy against the playpen repeatedly for like longer than 2 minutes, you're gonna get some spanking. You're gonna get some discipline, whether that's timeout or whatever. But this family, I thought I giggle because I have a bad reaction to bad things instead of instead of acknowledging it. It just some terrible malign thing in me. It just makes me laugh, and that's why I was giggling to the whole thing, waiting for Dreyfuss to be Dreyfuss, right? He's gonna explode, but he was very calm.
He's a gentle person, and it's interesting because this movie was made in the 70s, and it obviously takes place in the 70s. Although in the beginning of the movie it says present day.
Yeah,
but
it's funny.
But the 70s was a time when parents did hit their children in America, or maybe not every family, but it was certainly
Yeah.
socially acceptable at that time.
But
But
yeah,
Richard,
the dining table was a mess. He was having a train set on there. It was just the whole house was a mess, and they were arguing. That was key too, right? Him and his wife
yeah.
were not exactly happy. So that's I saw the same thing, but I guess in my mind it was normal to be not happy.
Mhm.
But yeah, you saw different.
So now the other family in Close Encounters was the little boy Barry and his mother. I think her name was
Mm.
Jillian,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another not dysfunctional per se, but there's no father there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the two of them. So either the father
Yep.
died or they got divorced. They live in a house that's filled with like old furniture and antiques, and so I'm
Mm.
assuming she inherited it, or
Mm.
it it was passed down somehow.
Yep.
But another family that's not intact.
Yeah.
So that seems to be a running theme. And in Arrival, Amy Adams had a daughter who died of
Yeah.
some illness, and her husband was out of the picture as well in the beginning of the movie. So
Yeah. Agree.
in both movies, multiple instances of not intact slash dysfunctional families.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dysfunction. I'd just say, it's not the normal, standard, happy-going family. Because there's some underlying, past that there or problem that's about to happen with Dreyfus. So it's calling it dysfunctional, I think is incorrect. I would say
Well,
it's,
Richard
not.
Dreyfuss's family was definitely dysfunctional.
Yeah, they're having definitely having arguments. But yeah. In Arrival, the way you interpret the movie, and this is so cool because the movie play like it's kind of like a play on word kind of thing. Um, you interpret her, the first viewing, it looks like it's kind of sad. She's just going through her day, and it's because she have experienced a loss, a loss of a child. And it just looks like she's just going, going through the motion, so to speak, a little bit lifeless. Um, it's not until the end that we would learn what's going on. But yeah, that's definitely the mood of the personal characters
So
being displayed.
the question that arises in my mind is there something about a dysfunctional or non intact family that is related to or key to a character encountering aliens? And
Yeah.
so where my mind goes when I ask that question is, well, okay, if your family life is satisfying and intact and whole, then that's a self-contained unit, and it seems like staying within that unit is something that a character in that unit would want to do. However, in a non-satisfying, dysfunctional, or not intact family, there's always like a longing for something more, a longing for intactness, and a longing for um, you know wholeness or safety, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And so that naturally lends itself to reaching out to the beyond, you know,
Yeah.
and opens
Yeah.
up the character, I think, to encountering aliens. So that's the connection I may make with that theme.
Yeah. So certainly it's very true for Close Encounters. I would disagree with you here and say that for Arrival it's not.
Why
It
not?
looks like perceptively yes, but you gotta understand Arrival play with time, and so it looks like she was experiencing loss and was kind of bored with her life, but that's not true. Um,
Well,
it just
I wouldn't say she was bored with her life. I would say she was sad, and there was a longing
but
for something in her heart.
yeah, but we only perceive that, or the story led us that way only because the director wanted us to tell that story. It's not necessarily true until we learn at the end that yeah, it might not have been true to begin with because of the time factor. She was just living her life,
We'll
being
we'll get
single.
into. I mean, get into that now
Yeah,
because this is something.
yeah. You had
It sounds
trouble,
like
yeah,
you understand something about this movie that I might have missed. So why don't you explain
right.
that?
So Arrival play with time in regards to learning the alien language. Being as being, we talked about this in the past where your ability to understand language and how you perceive the world are connected. So understanding a different language or knowing another language allow you to actually, understand and perceive the world differently. And we know that, through just human languages alone. But particularly in this movie with Arrival, the aliens that came to Earth are communicating in a non-linear language, meaning there is no beginning and end. The sentences, the words, is actually a circle that is a pictograph.
Hmm.
And so in the circle, there's like spikes and everything, and it represents meaning. The aliens don't understand time because they live outside time. They just view all time as is. They understand the past, the present, and future as the same thing. Like they just know it. And so as she is learning this new language, she's able to perceive what we think at the beginning of learning her story is flashbacks, that she's just, working and then remembering her past. But what's true is that at the end we understand that she's having flash forwards. She's actually just remembering her future. And so when you say the family dysfunction, it's actually not true. She's just a single person. She didn't get married and have a kid until after the alien interaction.
Mm.
But at the beginning of the movie, we thought that she has lost a child a long time before we came to, introduce the character. Because I remember this scene, not very significant, but she's just walking to work from the parking lot to this class. She's a professor,
Hmm.
and it's just very empty. She go to class. There's like 6 students there. Nobody cares. It just it just looked like a very depressing, it's just professor job that teaching about subject no one really cared, and they're just taking it. And
Well, the reason there's
it's
only 6 people in the class is because the aliens have arrived and everyone else is watching the news coverage.
yeah, but we didn't know that until the student tells her, right? And then everybody go and watch.
I
I
mean, we
just
kind of
remember.
did because as she was walking to the class, we see people clustered around TVs.
But did you sense that she was like a happy professor, or she was
No,
sad? Yeah, she was just very unsatisfied,
yeah,
and we didn't know that at that point she hasn't had a daughter yet. We thought she already did, and the daughter passed away because of the way
okay,
the movie was
I
showing us thing.
I
Does
get
that
that.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I get that, but I don't think that discounts what I said earlier about a
Mm,
character being open to aliens who has a sense of longing in
yeah,
their heart. I mean, she had that longing.
yeah, yeah. That part is correct. But yeah, I just want to clarify. Is that basically it for you with the, um, being a rival being a little bit confusing, or was there other things that you were kind of confused about?
Um, okay, so that I didn't necessarily see that. Yeah, that makes sense because she meets her daughter's husband when she goes to. I mean, her daughter's father when when she goes to the. He's one of the other people studying the alien ship,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Yeah, go ahead. The U.S. government hired them to for this project, and that's when she met her husband. Yeah.
yeah, at that time I knew him as science guy. She was she was the language person and he was the science guy, and I my thought was that he was in the movie to to take that point of view of like science, and emotions
Yeah.
are not something I deal with, and
Yeah.
you need to look
Yeah.
at
Me
things
too.
through the science lens. But it turns out that he actually ends up being the father of the daughter, which was a
Yeah.
nice twist because I don't. It's a little disappointing to run into characters that are there just to sort of cover a stereotype.
Correct. Yeah, he wasn't a trope at all, and yeah, same. I thought the same that he was she was a linguistic expert, he was a math expert. I thought they were just gonna, oh, here we go. He just this guy who
Yeah.
doesn't think the correct way, blah blah blah. But completely not that way. The movie goes a different direction. I'm glad it was. And it took me multiple viewings, the same confusion that you had, which is why I like so much because I rarely. I mean, I do watch movies multiple times, but typically it's typically it's action movies
Mhm.
that I'm just like seeing the action the first time, so I'm rewatching that part. But for plot, Arrival has this way of I don't know, um, I guess being on my list for just being not ordinary, and it took me a little bit because when I walk out the movie theater or walk away from the viewing and keep thinking about something,
Mhm.
I would say that's a good indication that your product or your story or whatever it is has an impact because I had to keep rewatching or keep thinking about it to help me figure it out.
Mhm.
And Arrival definitely does that for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this will take us to the next item on our agenda. That's aliens and the human psyche. Like
Mm,
aliens have there's a unique fascination with aliens. I think, in maybe not everybody, but many people, myself included.
yeah, myself included.
And I have some ideas about this, but why do you think aliens are so interesting to people? Why are they interesting to you, Tay?
I think they're interesting to me because it's the next frontier, right? We as a species, like once you get enough education, you understand we cross the ocean, we explore other continents. We went everywhere we possibly can, right? I mean, there's still like the ocean that we haven't explored to like the extent that we explore everything else. But I think it's natural for us to look and learn about the world. It's built into our DNA, sort of. I have no proof of that, but um, when we got to the moon, and then we just want to explore the stars, and Alien is just part of that, right? It's just part of this greater, bigger universe out there waiting for us. And yeah, I like it because it's fascinating me to do. Um, once it's science, right? For
Mhm.
for part it's science, and the other part it's just like demystifying science to the point where, hey, we could just download all this science knowledge because all the best that we can do right now is theorize and come up with equation and wait for information to come to light so we can test them. But what if we can just you know learn it real fast? Slow down that buffer of education and then just understand the world at large. But I think that's the fascination of explorers. Is what we are, and to me, going on beyond this planet is exciting. So uh, anything like that, including aliens, is baked into our DNA.
Hmm.
Why do you think we have a fascination with them?
Well, you said that you mentioned something interesting that it demystifies science. I think you
Well,
used that
not
term.
demystify. Yeah, I mean, demystify the unknowing.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
because the aliens are, if they're visiting us, then that means that they're more advanced or smarter than us, so
I hope so.
they know things that we don't, right?
Yeah.
So okay, I sort of have the opposite view. I believe
Mm.
that I love that groan that you do every time I mention something that doesn't accord with your
Mm-mm.
mental space. All right,
It's just an agreement. It's just an agreement that
it sounds like a
that you have not.
disagreement to me. Okay, but anyway, let me put this thought out there. I think that aliens mystify science
Mm.
in a sense. So, okay, and what I mean by that is, okay, aliens, as I mentioned, if they come to us, they're going to be mostly, they have to be more advanced and smarter than us and know something that we don't know.
Mm-hmm. True.
So, in that sense, a longing for an alien visitation is in a sense like it's akin to a longing for God, I think. And
Mm.
in our modern age, our modern scientific age, you know, it when God is mentioned, we get that exact reaction that you just had.
Yeah.
That
It's a somewhat disgust. Yeah, but go
yeah,
ahead, continue.
yeah. So in this way, aliens are like a scientifically acceptable modernly acceptable way of processing that longing for God.
No, I don't think I disagree completely. I couldn't disagree
I know you
more,
would.
but that's I know a lot of religious people do that. I don't know why. So
I think
let me compare it this way. Let me clarify it this way before you finish, or let me have you finish.
well. So the question is: are the aliens a metaphor for the divine in these
I would
movies?
No, I would say I don't know what the directors or the movies are trying to say, but I would say the longing that you compare it to is incorrect. I would say it's a search for exciting adventure.
Hmm.
It's like when you
Well,
you
but
know,
but
I don't
but
know.
hold on. We can get back to that. But hold on. We just talked about how the characters that are open to interacting with aliens uh, are are characters who are not whole and complete and have a longingness in their heart, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So
agreed.
it's not a longing for action and adventure. I mean, it's a longing for fulfillment and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think that goes right along with my theory here. But okay, why don't you go
I
ahead?
mean, maybe the directors see it the same way as you do, so I agree with you that, according to these movies, that's correct. But I can say speak for myself and most atheists. That's not exactly what we had in mind.
Well, I think
I
you're in
think that
denial.
you can maybe you can have projections all you want, right? And it's just a religious person projecting their understanding of God and the world onto somebody else. But and that's why I take things as they are, right? If
Hmm?
you want to talk about the movies or director's perception, that's one thing. But I can tell you how I perceive, and my perception is mine. And if you say that I'm incorrect, you're
I'm
insane. That's not accepting facts from my view, right?
well,
Um,
okay. Think of it this way, and I'm not trying to project anything onto you. I'm just giving you my
theorizing.
perspective.
Right.
Um, and I'm in no way criticizing you or anything like that. So please don't take it that way.
No,
Um,
we're good.
so there's two different movies, and there's a running that depict aliens, and they both have themes of characters with a fundamental longing in them that are the ones who are chosen to meet the aliens.
Mm,
So these two movies were made by two different directors, two different time periods, two different modes of storytelling. You know, one's from the 70s, and one's more formulaic and more close to now. So there are these themes, these psychological themes that are manifesting themselves through these movies,
mm-hmm.
points of commonality, and
Mm.
I can't help but notice them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. And I was about to explain. It's kind of like the fascination for search for greater, right? It's kind of like how I have for that new toy. When Tesla come out with the car or the solar roof, that's the exact same feeling. Is how I feel about aliens. It's just the next thing, the next step, and is a border or a chasm that we need to breach or cross as humanity, and aliens represent a huge chunk of that. I think once we establish that fact or have that interaction, humanity goes to that next step, and it's a huge step. I would say it's almost as big as, crossing the Pacific and discovering the Americas. And then it's huge. It's fundamentally shifting with everything that we do.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to be either or. It can be
Yeah,
both of those things at the same time.
yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. The that longing feeling could be, something for greater. Which bring me to the other point of the two movies. We see these characters being, in my opinion, very ordinary. They did not reach out or search. Unlike other movies, they're not space scientists or alien people, alien researchers. They're not anything out of the ordinary as far as like looking up and actually searching for something. They're actually just going about their daily lives, looking for meaning from within.
Mm-hmm.
And then these events happen to them. Um, do you think that the story arcs or formats just happen to have that way, or is there anything significance there?
Well, again, I bring it back to that sense of inner longing,
Mm.
which opens them up to that. And actually, you just reminded me of the movie Contact, where
Mm-hmm.
Jodie Foster uh,
Yep.
is an orphan. She was raised by her father. I guess her mother had died or something. So again, a non-intact family. The father died at some point, so she was, and I think he died of a heart attack, and it was like a tragic death. And she wished that she could have done something,
Mm-hmm.
and so like her, and she was an atheist too. But there was also another character who took the God.
Yeah, that movie was
But
like completely
well,
tropic. Yeah.
hold on. So again, we have the theme of a person who comes from a broken home or a damaged family with an inner sense of longing, and they become the one who has contact with the aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's a common
That one
theme.
I think, yeah, it is a common theme, and I think that one Contact is very, I would say, play into all those tropes, very very regularly,
Well,
or
tropes,
very
or is there something real?
formula.
Is there something real to it? Is there a reason why it keeps repeating itself over and over again? Does it express something that's true um, in regards to the human psyche?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we certainly have
It would,
keep seeing that reach for something, right? That
not only do we keep seeing it, but it tends to resonate with us on an emotional level, right?
yeah. Well, the one for Contact is for her lost parent, right?
Mm.
And Arrival is for a family, so to speak. Uh, like having children and having, a family. Dreyfus is just Close Encounter is different. It just
I don't know. I see them
it's
all the same. I think it's all the
mm,
same. That there's a longing
yeah,
for being whole and complete.
yeah. He's just not happy. But yeah. Although the difference in Contact versus these two is that Contact she was, actively searching, whereas these two
Yeah,
they're just running around living their lives.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the theme can be varied upon, but there's commonalities that are seem to be very obvious to me um, when
Yeah,
we compare them.
yeah. It is. It does. Very very true. Awesome. Yeah, Arrival took me two viewings to kind of just understand what's going on. Did you find, as far as uh, you know, Contact, we didn't see. We did see some human governments reacting to aliens.
Yeah,
Um, which between the Close Encounters and Arrival, like, did you see anything that worth noting as far as it's very typical for governments to, of course, freak out, try to take control of the situation, um, and of course, do it their own way. Um,
the government seems to stand um, act as a threshold guardian between the main character with the longing and the
mm,
actual contact with the aliens.
Yeah.
Now, you could say in Arrival that the government was actually facilitating that contact, but she had to go through them to get to the
Yep.
aliens, right? And
Yeah.
there was any moment when they could pull the plug and say, no, this isn't working anymore and you can't go there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so in Close Encounters, you see the government, trying to keep people away from Devil's Tower and saying there was like some sort of chemical accident, and then
Mm-hmm.
spraying this like mist on people who tried to climb the mountain that would put them to
Yeah.
sleep,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and in Contact, yeah, I mean, Jodie Foster worked for like a research arm of the government, or somehow related to the government, or the government was
Mm-hmm.
funding it or something. But there was the sense that the government could pull the funding at any time, or pick someone else to sit in the machine that would transport them to the alien realm.
Yeah.
So it's like the government's always in between. And,
I
and
think it's very real life, right? It's
yeah,
gonna happen that way.
yeah,
Um,
and not only in between, but they want to, like, you see this in Close Encounters, how there was this scene in the conference room that you talked about earlier, where they're like,
mm.
aliens aren't real. I know you guys want to believe that it's real because it's more interesting, but that there's just no evidence of it. They take that position, or they take the
Mm.
position that, the aliens might be here to attack us, so we have to be ready for that, and we have to train our guns on them, and just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And whereas the main character with the longing is always like, I don't think that's the way to go, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Especially there's certain things that demonstrated very well in Arrival, right? The defining the certain word as tool versus weapon, right? And it's I thought that was like completely different meaning if you understand a different way. And but I think it's also very realistic. Like if we have something like that in our world, which theoretically, you can argue that we do, it would be through that filter. Like we wouldn't just get walk up to aliens and do whatever we want. It's gonna be a filter of government, because they're kind of the people in power.
mm-hmm.
So that's gonna happen. Did you, yeah? Did you find anything else uniquely
So
kind of?
I found this interesting. The depiction of the government and the military in Close Encounters was a lot different than the depiction of the government and the military in Arrival, and it was
Oh yeah.
different in this way. Yeah, the government, not the scientists, but the government, like, so the army people for the most part,
Hmm.
seem to be a little more incompetent in Close Encounters. Like in Arrival, they were very professional and very, like,
Yeah.
intimidating and all that. In Close Encounters, they were a bit more comical and sort of bumbling a little bit.
Mm.
And I mean, I take that as a sign of the times. Close Encounters was made in the 70s, close to the Vietnam War.
Hmm.
The military wasn't as respected as it had come to be, particularly after 9/11. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's probably
Yeah.
all that speaks to. But do you have
I
anything?
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do notice the same
Oh,
thing.
you were in the Army, so you
Correct.
have a unique
I'm
take on this, I would imagine.
No, I would say the same. It's both sides of the same coin, right? It's both true. But as far as culturally how we interpret, the same thing, seems to be a lot different. Like if you watch, Rambo, or if you see Close Encounters, you just like, that same notion. Like, my God, who are these people? Like,
Yeah.
why don't I figure something else to do? It's like if you can't figure out something to do, go to the army. But you look at Arrival, is very different, right? It's very, this is the thing to do. It's like something to aspire to, um, and it's very, like you said, very professional within. hours, right? They set up this camp and they were ready to go and they have all this equipment and Amy Adams had was approached by all these helicopters. It was very, you know, let's go, let's go, let's go. Everything was already done, kind of feel or vibe to it.
Hmm.
Um, and in Arrival, the character just got moved from one place to another and everything was always set up for her. Versus you see in Close Encounters, like you see the inner thoughts, right? The things are like ticking inside the government people. Nevertheless, was like impressive to me, but there's a lot of people running around, especially the scene where the spaceship came, they left,
Which movie
and
are
then
you
they
talking about?
in Close Encounters,
Close Encounters.
the baby alien ships came first,
Hmm.
like scoped things out, and then the mothership came. So in between there was a break where people just they thought it was over. So all these people in all these color uniforms and overalls were just standing around handshaking each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the mothership came, and some people lost it. Like there's a guy running to the
He hid in a
uh,
porta potty.
porta potty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I almost bursted out laughing because I was like, I thought he was tackling Richard Dreyfuss' character, but he wasn't. He just kind of like hi.
Hmm.
Um, this is so which demonstrate to me like everyone there was not in on, hey let's do this right mentality. It was more like, hey let's do this thing. So I'm curious. They never explained that background, but I thought it was just I think it was maybe tension relief, like just a
Yeah.
small
A
comical
little
moment.
comic relief. Yeah.
Yeah, a little comic relief, and that's it's very funny. So it worked.
Mm.
It did it magic. Whereas Arrival had no, you know, barely any I would say almost zero comedy. It's very
Yeah.
very serious throughout the entire movie.
It was.
So there's no action adventure. It's more like just a story for the main character and her psyche. Did you find any fascination with the language component in Arrival?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought that was all very interesting. One more point with the military.
Mm.
Um, there seemed to be a heavy emphasis on helicopters in both movies.
Yes, yes.
What do you think that is? Did,
Well, it's just practical, man. It's how you get around fast. And they can land, almost anywhere. So
yeah,
it's just a thing.
you don't need a runway. But like there was this one scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind where they're all waiting by the road for the spaceships to pass at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the spaceships are coming," but it turned out to be government helicopters that were, to
Yes,
scare them away.
I love that scene. But yes.
And then there were government helicopters dusting the mountain with the chemicals, and
Mm-hmm.
they were going to take uh, Richard Dreyfuss and that other woman away from the mountain in a helicopter.
Yeah.
And then in Arrival, it was all like Amy Adams gets picked up from her house in a helicopter that comes. And I think it might be because helicopter. I mean, yes, they are practical to get from point A to point B, but there's also a chaotic element to them. They're very
Yes.
loud and create a lot of wind, and they've got these headlights, especially when they arrive at night, that shine in through your windows. And you know,
Yeah. It's
they're
a movie thing as well, I
they're
think. Yeah.
off-putting. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
helicopters.
a story movie thing as well because if you just do it with cars and it's quiet, it's not the same effect, right? Like having all these military people stopping on her backyard, just a college professor is just like, oh my God, something's going down.
It creates
Whereas
urgency. It does.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah, if you just ring her doorbell, it doesn't seem the same. Doesn't seem the same. But yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, the alien language in Arrival.
okay.
What do how did you feel about it?
No, that was interesting. I mean, it was a puzzle to figure out, so that's always intriguing for an audience member. um, and the concept that it's circular is intriguing. I don't know that I fully grasp that. I mean, I understand it from the conceptual standpoint that you explained, but um, I'm not sure exactly how that would work, really. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not fully there. but I bought into the notion that it existed. You know, it's not like my reaction was,
Yeah.
oh, that couldn't happen. You know,
How
I believed it. So.
yeah, how did you take the alien interpretation between the two movies, right? Because as Close Encounters, you see what we call gray aliens, right? Just very humanoid characters,
Well,
big skull.
there were three types of aliens in Close
Yeah,
Encounters. There was that
please.
one like spider, very spindly, tall guy who crawls out of the
Yep,
ship and then disappears very quickly. There,
check. Yeah.
and then there's the little short.
I call them baby or kids aliens because
Yeah,
they.
the little,
Yeah.
and then there's the one that comes out at the end that you get a good look at, and
Mm,
he does the hand gestures and he smiles, and that
mm,
I remember. This last viewing didn't emotionally impact me as much as I remember being emotionally impacted by that scene in the past. So maybe
mm-hmm.
I've just seen it too many times. Um, but I remember being very emotionally impacted by that. And um, so the aliens are friendly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess they don't understand or respect our laws. And so like kidnapping is not an issue.
Not cool.
Well, they don't care. They'll do
Yeah,
it.
they don't care. Yeah.
And they return everyone. And those poor World War II people, I mean, they were
Oh,
kidnapped
dude.
in the
Yeah.
40s and then returned in the 70s at the same
Yeah.
age.
Forget it. I would freak, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like,
you see a lot of that in Close Encounter or reference to, the normal culture that we understand as far as alien abduction and all that stuff. It
but
play into all that
yeah. And
effect.
there's no evidence that the aliens, were, probing them or treating them poorly or anything.
Yeah.
The little kid seems to have had a good experience
Yeah,
on the
seemed
ship.
perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So they seem very friendly and benevolent and, otherworldly, literally, and angelic, really. I mean, they appear in
Yeah,
this
but
bright light, and it's like, I
very
mean,
gray aliens though, right? Like they're all form factors of the gray aliens in
yeah,
different ways. And they're all bipedal, they all have hands and feet.
hmm
I mean they look different, but somehow also chose bipedalism or evolved that way.
and
So we saw that.
that mothership arrives and then flips over so that the ramp can be lowered.
Hmm.
It's like, why not just arrive in that state? Why?
I think that was for dramatic like movie effect, right? Like up is down, down is up, right? Just because
Yeah,
I think that was for that thing with all the lights too.
and
So you can't,
they did that
yeah,
in Arrival too when they were being raised up into the ship the first
yeah,
time, and then it turned
yeah,
out to be a hallway.
yeah. The gravity, um, it was basically like science fiction, the novel or the story way of dealing with aliens and gravity. Uh, the fact that we have gravity and it's gonna be different,
Mhm.
so they turned their ship a certain way, and when Amy Adams' character and Jeremy Renner's interact with them, they actually get pulled up into weird centrifugal gravity revert thing, and it flipped. So they, what we think is up and down, flip to, left and right, so they can talk to them. So that
Yeah,
was kind of cool. What did you think of the aliens' form factor? Like,
in Arrival. Uh,
correct.
I thought that was cool. I mean, yeah, there's no reason to think that an alien from another planet would have the same bodily form that we do, unless you know, unless you want to ascribe the biblical, God created us in His own image kind of mindset.
Mm,
Um, so, and to that point, there were a number of Christian references in Close Encounters, which is interesting because Steven Spielberg is Jewish.
mm,
But like before the orange jumpsuit people were brought out to the mothership.
Yeah.
There was like a Catholic priest giving a
Yeah.
blessing. And then there were lots of references by the army. Well, I don't know, lots, at least two references that I noticed by army people saying like, I forget exactly what they said, but there were references to Jesus,
Mm.
So, and then the fact that the aliens were also made in God's image, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
or our image. So, an Arrival, definitely no Christian references at all, which I think is, and the aliens were different looking. So, which I think just speaks to our time. Back in the 70s, it was a more Christian dominated era, and now it's less so. So there's
Yeah.
that. I liked how, so they were sort of squid shaped. They had tentacles. They would communicate through their hands. Well, their tentacles that sort of opened like hands and then would squirt out this ink that would go in the circular. It create these circular images which were the pictograms in which they communicated. So that was all. That was all very cool. I was impressed.
I like the not the cliffhanger, but I guess the the conclusion you would draw from seeing her book. The Amy Adams character wrote a book at the end of the movie, right? And you see like a whole box of books about to be shipped out.
Mm-hmm.
So the conclusion you would draw, or the connecting point, is that eventually all of humans race would understand, time the way she understand it, because she learned the alien language, and you can do that as well if you read her book. So I thought that was really interesting, because if you could do that, would you read that book and learn that language as a choice? Would you?
What else do I have to do?
But it will kill your it will kill any mystery. You will know all of your life in the future as well.
Oh.
So does that mean you can't like unlearn it? That's my point. My question is then become, do you think the rest of humanity will learn the language? I mean, unless you can turn it on and off, but I'm pretty sure you can. It's just like how you dream, or how you have inner monologue. You just do understand the language. Like there's nothing for you to like turn off. Would you make the choice to learn that language and then know everything that's your life to come?
Well, there's always higher levels, right? So I mean, that could be a higher level from here, but I'm sure from there there are higher levels above that.
No.
What do you mean no?
No. What do you mean? Like, can you clarify? Like, what are you talking? What levels?
Okay. So we exist at our present level, and we have our present level of understanding. If we learned that language, we would have an expanded level of understanding.
Right.
But there's nothing to say that there aren't further levels above that. Right.
Right. But the question is, would you learn that language?
I mean, yeah, of course.
Okay. Interesting. Because I would say it's half and half, right? Like I would be afraid to learn that language. And the reason is, if I understand all that is to come, would I make like what's the point? Like what's the mystery then?
But there might be that might put you in a position to begin to understand even bigger mysteries, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that might be true. To the movies and to the story, it's just Amy Adams understand her timeline with her daughter, right? We don't know if there was more, if she understood more of the time in the future.
Now that's an interesting position for you to take, given what you said earlier.
About what?
Well, when we were talking about what's the fascination behind aliens, and you explained it in that aliens were like the new frontier, and we always want to learn the next thing and
Yep.
be exposed to the next thing. But here you're saying that you wouldn't want to learn that language because you would know too much. So you want to keep learning and have some mystery out there in which to explore.
Not in
But you don't want
regards
to
to
learn
time,
it all.
right? Not in regards to time, right? Like so let's part this or compartmentalize. Like you, in regards to this language, if you learn it, you will be understand and know all of your life in the future as well, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Now, the choice becomes, if you want to understand aliens, and this is all the technology they have, like they can't teach you about space travel or heck medicine or anything else, just this, limited to this one function. Yeah, it'll be tough. I'll probably will do it, but it'll be a heck of a choice to make, because you won't have any. Basically, your your life is a movie that is already completed, and so you don't have any choice left. All the magic's been removed. The question then becomes, do you pick up that book and try to learn that language? So that's
Well,
yeah.
so
I mean,
I question the certainty you have that all mystery would be removed if you learn the language. I mean, certainly
not
some
not all
mystery.
mystery. No, yeah, I mean not all mystery. Just you and your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I'm pretty sure Amy Adam doesn't know everything in the universe. That's the other thing. Like do you know everything, or do you know everything that's just gonna happen to you? Uh, because do you know all future? I don't think so. I think learning a language, you just know, your life.
But
But the aliens seem to know.
maybe that enables you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Correct. Yeah. So if we would explore that, I think I would be more positive or more open to it. It's just that part was never shown. It was never shown what else you can do once you understand the alien language.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting. I thought it was tons of questions for me, right? Like when I left the theater, I was like, oh my God. I was very yeah, it was just like I want more, right? I want more. I want like a sequel or something. I want to follow up, but good movies and good story tends to do that. Not that Close Encounter wasn't a good movie, but I thought it was, it's more of a completed loop, action adventure kind of thing where you feel good for Richard Dreyfuss finally.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, throughout the whole movie, he was depicted as somewhat of a failure, somewhat of a bumbling. The neighbors looked at him and
Yes, I thought that scene was so hilarious. The neighbor was hair drying herself, and I don't remember what neighborhood they live in, but they didn't show it.
They're in Indiana somewhere.
Yeah, this lady had ducks in her backyard where he stole slash borrowed a fence from so he can build, the 3D model of Devil's Tower in his living room. And I was thinking to myself, who has ducks in the middle of, like, what? What city? What? No. Just keep me laughing, because I think that's the point of the scene, right? Like, make me laugh, because this lady, just strange lady.
What was she farming ducks? Like, what was she doing with those ducks? Were they just pets?
Yes, I think they were just pets for fun, because she has a little fountain and whatnot.
And the fence kept them in? Like, can't ducks fly?
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. I think it was just there for distraction. It was not meant for you to look too much into.
Well, sorry.
No worries. I noticed the same thing up on second, third viewings. I did notice what you mentioned off show. We were planning this. Talk about Pinocchio.
Right.
When he was teaching his kid, right? It was the math scene. Is that the same scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they were talking.
There was a statue or a musical thing of Pinocchio on the train set. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I don't remember seeing that. I do remember them talking about seeing a movie, Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And his biggest kid was saying that he doesn't want to see that. It's not exciting for him. and he negotiated with him because he was trying to make his wife happy and bring the other kids, which were way younger,
Do you know
to
the
see a
story
movie.
of Pinocchio?
He came to life, and then he came back to something happened.
Yeah.
He's he's a wooden boy, came to life, and then I think he eventually did stay alive as a real boy through some fairy magic.
Yeah.
But he lies and his nose grow longer. I mean, it's I mix them all up, right? All the stories, I get them mixed all up, but
I
I
mean,
kind of get like, yeah, be truthful. Got it. Check.
we're over an hour now, so and I don't really even know the story of Pinocchio that well.
Mm. But do you think it means something to Richard Dreyfuss' character?
Well, yeah, I mean, Steven Spielberg put that in the movie for some reason, and he referenced it again with a little statue of Pinocchio. So, I mean, that doesn't just happen, especially in a
Yeah.
Spielberg movie.
He does go into the whale's stomach or whale's, whale
yeah, to
something.
rescue his father.
Maybe Dreyfuss going to the alien ship is, kind of like the same imagery.
Well, and Pinocchio kind of comes from a non-traditional family too. Like Geppetto is a single man who creates the marionette and then wishes that he becomes a live boy.
Yeah.
So that's
in a way. Yeah, in a way, it's the same. And I think the other connection is Dreyfuss is not alive, right, until he's activated or come in contact with the aliens, through this journey. Then he'll be more of a real boy because right now he's just seeking to become, something else.
So Richard Dreyfuss is Pinocchio in this analogy.
maybe that's what
Who's
Spielberg's trying to. I don't know.
The aliens?
Geppetto's the French guy.
Maybe it's the that one alien that does the hand gestures at the end.
Yeah, that is possible.
He's reunited with his father.
If we get famous enough, maybe we can ask Spielberg himself. And just like, what did you just strap that in for fun, or did it mean anything?
I'm sure we could find the answer in 15 seconds with a Google search. Yeah.
Well, it's fan theories time, right? Yeah, we can just theorize and go off on the dark end of movie magic. But cool. Any closing thoughts?
I think we discussed everything on our list. Let me just. I'm trying to look through my. So the alien in Arrival said something about Abbott is death process.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah, because they named them Abbott and Costello, which I thought was hilarious because that little thing they do with Who's on First.
Mm-hmm.
I had to watch that after I watched the movie again because I thought it was magical. And for those who don't know, well, I don't know if you. I think our audience would know about Abbott and Costello. Who's on First. If you don't, just Google or YouTube it. It's hilarious, and there's this bit that's play on words, and I would say your understanding of a language is that mark right there. If you can understand pun jokes and poetry, that's your mark of understanding a language. Like to his most, I don't want to say at the highest level, but pretty high. It's a good mark. If you don't understand comedy or poetry in any language, then I would say you are just passable as far as, doing some Google Translate and getting by. Mm-hmm. But to say that you know something would be that mark right there. When Abbott and Costello is funny to you, or, whatever the versions there are of other languages. So it took me time to understand that Who's on First bit. And yeah, Abbott dies from the explosion where one of the soldier in Arrival was I don't know, unhappy or go crazy. So that's what happened.
Yeah. Oh well. I think we're done.
Cool. Well, yeah, I want to shout out to our one because last episode you requested comments, right? And I want to do a small shout out to not sure if I said this right, but the YouTuber by the name of Vernon Nielsen. I just want to say thanks for commenting. So please keep it rolling in, whoever it's out there, because I know it takes, it's like radio show. The callers are always not the rest of the people listening. So feel free to chime in on the comments as well.
Yeah, makes it adds a level of excitement that wouldn't otherwise be there. So we appreciate it.
Very, very, very much. Because now we know there's listeners that we don't know, right? You were trying to verify with me whether or not this is someone I know. I'm like, I don't think so, man. I think this is from the actual internet. I did not, recruit or ask for from someone I know. So we're both clear. It's a real fans.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, and see you next episode.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hello, listeners. This is George with the Epic Meta Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Did you know that you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube? You probably knew that one of those was the case, but the other ones are the case as well. Please be sure to click the like button if that's in accord with your reality. You can also share our podcast with your friends, give us a 5-star rating, and all of that. Please also give us your comments. Be very interested to read them. But more importantly than all of that, just continue to listen to the show. And as Thang would say, be good and be well until we meet again.